Imagine, for a moment, that you are standing in the middle of Times Square. The neon lights are screaming for your attention. 1,000 different screens are flashing competing messages. And the roar of the crowd is a constant, vibrating hum in your chest. This is not just a physical location. This is the internal state of the modern human mind. In 2026, we live in an era of infinite inputs, where our focus is the most harvested crop on the planet. We are more connected than ever, yet we feel strangely hollow, drifting through a digital fog that never quite lifts. But what if you could just stop? What if you decided to step out of the noise and into the silence? Today, we are exploring a radical architectural blueprint for the soul. The 6-month monk mode. This isn't just another productivity hack or a fleeting New Year's resolution. It is a systematic, high-stakes commitment to personal isolation and intense self-discipline. Based on the philosophy of the monk mode protocol, this journey is designed to help you reclaim your cognitive sovereignty and, quite literally, shock the world with the person you become on the other side. The core premise is simple but demanding. For 180 days, you remove the trivial to make room for the essential. We'll be breaking down the 3 pillars that hold this entire structure up: isolation, intention, and iteration. We'll explore why 6 months is the Goldilocks zone for neuroplasticity, long enough to physically reshape the neural pathways of your brain, but short enough to keep the finish line within your mental horizon. Throughout this guide, we aren't just looking at how to get more work done. We are looking at the deep psychological why behind our distractions. We'll discuss the dopamine poverty line, that threshold where we've burnt out our ability to feel joy, because we've overstimulated our receptors with cheap, digital thrills. By the end of this journey, you won't just have a schedule, you'll have a new philosophy of living. We are moving from being reactive to being intentional. If you felt like you're capable of so much more, but you're currently trapped in a cycle of procrastination and shallow living, this is your invitation to the void. It's time to go quiet, get serious, and see what happens when you finally stop running away from yourself. Chapter 1. The Philosophy of the Void. Have you ever sat in a completely silent room, with no phone, no book, and no music, and felt a sudden, rising sense of panic? It's a strange, modern phenomenon. We are the first generation of humans who are almost never alone with our own thoughts. We have filled every micro moment of our lives: the elevator ride, the walk to the car, the 30 seconds waiting for the kettle to boil with a digital pacifier. We have become terrified of the vacuum. But here is the foundational truth of monk mode. Nothing meaningful can be built in a crowded room. To create something new, you must first create a void. The philosophy of the void is not about emptiness for the sake of being empty. It is about clearing the rubble so you can finally see the foundation of your own life. Think of your mind like a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it with new distractions, new emails, and new social media scrolls, the water stays cloudy forever. But if you set the glass down and leave it alone, if you enter the void, the mud naturally settles to the bottom. Only then does the water become clear. Only then can you see what is actually at the bottom of the glass. Historically, this isn't a new idea. Whether it was the Stoics in Rome, the desert monks of the 4th century, or the great polymaths of the Enlightenment, they all understood a singular psychological law. Greatness requires a period of gestation in the dark. You cannot undergo a metamorphosis while you are constantly being observed and influenced by the outside world. To shock everyone in 2026, you must first become a stranger to them. You must disappear. The reason most people fail to achieve their long-term goals is not a lack of talent. It is cognitive overcrowding. We are trying to build empires while our brains are being taxed by 1,000 tiny, trivial decisions. What should I post? What did that comment mean? Which Netflix show should I start? Monk mode is the process of declaring cognitive bankruptcy. You are clearing the ledger. You are saying to the world, I am no longer available for the trivial. This void serves as a laboratory for the self. When you remove the noise, you are forced to confront the shadow, those parts of yourself you've been ignoring. Perhaps you've been using work to hide from a lack of purpose, or using social media to hide from loneliness. In the void, there is nowhere to run. This is where the emotional engagement begins. It is uncomfortable, yes. It is even painful at first. But that discomfort is the feeling of your brain recalibrating. It is the sound of your dopamine receptors finally beginning to heal. We often think of boredom as an enemy, but in monk mode, boredom is your greatest ally. Boredom is the precursor to creativity. When the brain is denied its hit of cheap digital stimulation, it begins to look inward for entertainment. It starts making connections it hasn't made in years. It starts solving problems you've been stuck on for months. By embracing the void, you aren't just focusing. You are allowing your mind to return to its natural, high-performance state. Consider the analogy of a high-performance engine. If you run a car at redline constantly, never changing the oil and never letting it cool down, it will eventually seize. Most of us are living our lives at redline. We are redlining our attention, our emotions, and our nervous systems. Monk mode is the 6-month pit stop. It is the deep maintenance required to ensure that when you get back on the track, you aren't just moving, you are flying. This philosophy also touches on the concept of social signaling. We spend an incredible amount of energy trying to look like we are succeeding. We curate our lives for an audience that doesn't actually care. The void removes the audience. When you stop posting, stop explaining, and stop seeking validation, you find a terrifying but liberating truth. Your opinion of yourself is the only one that actually carries weight. As we move into this 6-month journey, understand that the void is your sanctuary. It is a boundary you draw around your life to protect your potential. It is the monk part of the protocol, the realization that the most important work of your life happens when no one is watching. You are not missing out on the world. The world is missing out on you while you are becoming someone worth knowing. In this first month of your 6-month stint, your only job is to get comfortable with the silence. Stop trying to fix everything at once. Just stop the bleeding. Stop the inputs. Let the mud settle. You will feel an itch to check your phone. That is the addiction leaving the body. You will feel a sense of fear of missing out. FOMO. That is your ego trying to keep you small. Breathe through it. The void is where your new life begins. By the end of this chapter, I want you to shift your perspective. Don't look at the next 6 months as a period of deprivation. Look at it as a period of accumulation. You are accumulating focus, accumulating energy, and accumulating a sense of self that cannot be shaken by a headline or a notification. You are building a fortress, and every fortress starts with a cleared piece of land. Key takeaway: the void is not a place of lack, but a space of preparation. Only by removing the constant noise of the world can you hear the signal of your own potential. Chapter 2. The 3 non. If the first chapter was about the soul of monk mode, this chapter is about the skeleton. You can have all the philosophical intentions in the world, but without a rigid structure to hang them on, they will collapse the moment you feel tired, hungry, or bored. In the world of elite performance, there is a concept called decision fatigue. Every time you have to ask yourself, should I work out today? Or can I check my phone just once? You are leaking precious cognitive energy. The 6-month monk mode solves this by establishing what we call the 3 non-negotiables. These are the closed loops of your life, the rules that are no longer up for debate. Think of these non-negotiables as the walls of a pressure cooker. Without the walls, the heat just dissipates into the air. With them, the internal pressure builds until it transforms the ingredients inside. To shock everyone in 2026, you need that internal pressure. You need a container that doesn't leak. The 3 pillars we are building today are elimination, physical fortification, and the deep work minimum. Pillar 1. The law of elimination, digital and chemical. The first non-negotiable is the most painful, the removal of cheap dopamine. We live in a world that is architected to keep us in a state of low-level agitation. Every notification is a micro-stressor. Every scroll is a gamble for a hit of neurochemical reward. During these 6 months, you are not reducing your social media usage. You are killing it. Why such a drastic measure? Because your brain is currently down-regulated. When you blast your brain with the high-intensity stimulation of TikTok, Instagram, or adult content, your brain protects itself by reducing its sensitivity to dopamine. This is why real life starts to feel gray and boring. You can't focus on a book or a complex business problem because your brain is waiting for the next hit. By eliminating these inputs, you are performing a biological hard reset. You are allowing your receptors to heal. In the first few weeks, you will feel a profound sense of anhedonia, a flat, dull feeling where nothing seems interesting. This is the withdrawal. It's the monk sitting in the cell. But stay the course. On the other side of that dullness is a world where a sunset feels vivid, where a deep conversation is intoxicating, and where a difficult work task becomes a fascinating puzzle rather than a chore. This elimination extends to substances. Alcohol, even in moderation, is a cognitive tax you can no longer afford to pay. It disrupts your REM sleep, which is where your brain processes information and regulates emotions. If you are serious about a 6-month transformation, you need your brain functioning at 100% capacity. You are trade-offing the liquid courage of a Saturday night for the earned confidence of a Monday morning. Pillar 2. Physical fortification. The second non-negotiable is daily physical movement. Notice I didn't say going to the gym for 2 hours. I said movement. Monk mode is a grueling mental marathon, and you cannot run a marathon with a broken vehicle. There is a powerful psychological link between physical discipline and mental sovereignty. When you tell your body to get out of bed at 6 a.m. to go for a run in the cold, or when you push through that last set of squats when your lungs are screaming, you are sending a message to your subconscious. The mind is the master, and the body is the servant. In 2026, we have largely forgotten that our brains are part of our bodies. If your blood sugar is spiking and crashing because of poor nutrition, or if your lymphatic system is stagnant because you haven't moved in 3 days, your focus will be non-existent. Physical fortification during monk mode acts as a grounding wire. It burns off the cortisol and adrenaline that build up during intense periods of deep work. It ensures that when you sit down to create, your nervous system is calm and your blood is oxygenated. You must choose a protocol that is sustainable for 180 days. For some, it's weightlifting. For others, it's long distance, running, or martial arts. The what matters less than the always. It is a non-negotiable. Rain or shine, tired or energized, the body pays its taxes every single day. Pillar 3. The deep work minimum. The third pillar is the engine of your transformation, a daily commitment to at least 4 hours of undistracted, deep work. In the modern economy, shallow work, emails, meetings, Slack messages, researching is the path to mediocrity. Deep work is the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. It is the only thing that produces real value. During your 6-month monk mode, you are carving out a sanctuary for this work. Imagine 2 people. Person A works 10 hours a day but keeps their phone on the desk. They check every text, answer every quick question, and have 20 tabs open. Person B works only 4 hours a day but does so in a locked room, environment, no phone, no internet unless required, one single task. At the end of 6 months, Person B will have moved the needle further than Person A could in 6 years. This is because of attention residue. When you switch from a task to a notification and back to the task, a part of your brain stays stuck on the notification for up to 20 minutes. Most people spend their entire lives in a state of permanent attention residue. They never reach the deep flow where true genius resides. Your non-negotiable is to hit your deep work minimum before you do anything else. You eat the frog first. You tackle the hardest, most important project when your willpower battery is at its fullest. By making this a daily law, you remove the should I struggle. You don't work because you feel inspired. You work because it is 9 a.m. and the door is locked. The psychology of the non-negotiable. Why are these 3 so critical? Because they build identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Most people have a very low opinion of themselves because they have a history of breaking promises to themselves. They say they'll start the diet, and they don't. They say they'll write the book, and they don't. Monk mode is the process of rebuilding that trust. When you hit month 3, and you haven't missed a workout, haven't touched social media, and haven't skipped a deep work session, something magical happens. You stop trying to be disciplined and you become disciplined. Your self-image shifts. You look in the mirror and realize you are the kind of person who does what they say they are going to do. This is the shock that the book title promises. People won't just be shocked by your new physique or your business success. They will be shocked by the vibe of a person who has total command over their own impulses. In a world of drifters, a person with a non-negotiable code is a force of nature. However, be warned. The first 21 days will be a civil war. Your brain will lie to you. It will tell you that this is extreme, that you're missing out, or that one little look won't hurt. This is why we call them non-negotiables. You do not negotiate with terrorists, and in the beginning, your dopamine-addicted brain is a terrorist. You must treat these rules as if they are the laws of physics. If you jump off a building, gravity doesn't negotiate based on how tired you are. During monk mode, your rules are your gravity. As we move forward, I want you to visualize these 3 pillars as the walls of your fortress. Inside these walls, you are safe from the chaos of 2026. Inside these walls, you are the king or queen of your own attention. The world will try to pull you out. Your old habits will try to bridge the gap. But as long as the 3 non-negotiables stand, your transformation is inevitable. Key takeaway: discipline is not a punishment, but a structural support system. By turning your most important habits into non-negotiable laws, you eliminate the need for willpower and pave a straight road to mastery. Chapter 3: Digital Minimalism and the Attention Economy. If you want to understand why you feel exhausted despite doing nothing, or why you feel anxious despite having no immediate threats in your life, you have to understand the invisible war being waged against your nervous system. In 2026, we aren't just using technology. We are being processed by it. We are the raw material in a global refinery called the attention economy. To succeed in a 6-month monk mode, you must move beyond using your phone less. You must become a digital ghost. You must practice digital minimalism as a lifestyle aesthetic, but as a strategic defense of your sanity. The algorithm and the invisible leash. The first thing we must acknowledge is that the apps on your phone were designed by the smartest minds of our generation: behavioral psychologists, neuroscientists, and data engineers, with one specific goal: to keep you looking at the screen for one more second than you intended. They use a psychological mechanism called variable reward schedules, the same mechanism that makes slot machines the most addictive form of gambling. When you pull down to refresh a feed, you don't know if you'll see a boring ad or a dopamine-inducing notification. That maybe is what keeps you hooked. During monk mode, we recognize that we cannot win a fair fight against a trillion-dollar algorithm. If the app is on your phone and the phone is in your pocket, the algorithm wins. It has more processing power than your willpower. Therefore, the first step of digital minimalism is structural removal. You don't try to stave off Instagram. You delete the account, or, at the very least, you delete the app and change the password to something complex that you keep in a physical notebook in another room. You create friction. In the modern world, convenience is the enemy of excellence. If it is easy to distract yourself, you will distract yourself. Digital minimalism is the art of making distraction difficult and making focus inevitable. The dopamine poverty line. There is a concept I want you to sit with: the dopamine poverty line. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. It is the pursuit chemical. It is the fuel for motivation. When you spend 3 hours scrolling through short-form videos, you are dumping massive amounts of dopamine into your system without any earned effort. You are essentially overclocking your brain's reward center. The result: your brain, in its infinite wisdom, tries to maintain balance by downregulating your receptors. It's as if you've been listening to music at 110 decibels for hours. When you turn the music off, you can't hear a normal conversation. When you live above the dopamine poverty line, constantly stimulated by high-intensity digital inputs, the normal activities required for a successful life, reading a difficult book, coding a software program, meditating, having a deep conversation, feel painful and impossibly boring. Monk mode is a 6-month journey to lower your dopamine floor. By cutting out the digital noise, you are allowing your brain to regain its sensitivity. After 30 days of digital minimalism, the boredom of working on your business starts to feel like engagement. The effort of reading 50 pages of a biography starts to feel like flow. You are moving from a state of digital poverty, where you have no focus left for yourself, to a state of attentional wealth. Information dietetics. You are what you consume. We are very careful about what we put in our mouths. We count calories. We look at macros. We avoid toxins, but we are incredibly reckless about what we put in our minds. In 2026, the average person consumes more information in a single day than a person in the 1400s consumed in their entire lifetime. But most of that information is mental junk food. It is sensationalist news, celebrity gossip, outrage porn, and hustle culture, quotes that provide the illusion of progress without the substance of action. In monk mode, you go on a strict information diet. If a piece of information does not directly contribute to your 3 non-negotiables or your primary 6-month goal, it is a toxin. You unsubscribe from every newsletter. You unfollow every influencer who makes you feel inadequate or distracted. You turn off every single notification on your phone except for phone calls from a whitelist of family members. Imagine your attention is a high-powered laser. Every time you check a breaking news headline or a random YouTube recommendation, you are diffusing that laser into a dim, useless glow. Digital minimalism allows you to refocus that laser into a single point of heat. That heat is what creates the shock everyone sees at the end of the 6 months. The ghost protocol. What does this look like in daily practice? It means you adopt the ghost protocol. You stop being instantly reachable. We have been conditioned to believe that if someone texts us, we owe them a response within minutes. This is a form of digital slavery. During your monk mode, you check your messages twice a day, perhaps at noon and 5 p.m. Outside of those windows, your phone is in do not disturb mode, or better yet, in a timed block box. You are teaching the world how to treat you. You are signaling that your time is expensive and your focus is sacred. People might be annoyed at first, but eventually, they will respect you for it. They will realize that when they do have your attention, it is 100% present and focused, which is a rare and beautiful gift in 2026. The psychological liberation of being unplugged. There is a deep, existential relief that comes from digital minimalism. When you stop looking at how everyone else is living, you are finally forced to look at how you are living. The social comparison engine in your brain finally grinds to a halt. You stop measuring your behind the scenes against everyone else's highlight reel. In the silence of your digital fast, you will rediscover your own voice. Most of our opinions are actually just echoes of the last 3 podcasts we listened to, or the last 5 tweets we read. When you cut off the inputs, your own original thoughts start to surface. This is where the mastery happens. This is where you find the unique angle for your business, or the creative spark for your art. You are not missing out on the world. The world is a chaotic, noisy, and often purposeless place. By choosing digital minimalism, you are opting out of the matrix of 2026 and opting into the reality of your own potential. You are choosing the difficult beauty of a focused life over the easy ugliness of a distracted one. As we move into the middle of this 6-month journey, your phone should become nothing more than a tool like a hammer or a screwdriver. You pick it up when you have a specific job to do, and you put it down the moment the job is finished. You no longer live in the digital world. You live in the physical world, in your body, and in your work. Key takeaway: your attention is your only true possession. By ruthlessly eliminating digital distractions, you reclaim the cognitive energy required to build a life that others only dream of. Chapter 4. The physical vessel body as hardware. If you were given a $5 million Formula One race car, would you fill the tank with low-grade kerosene? Would you let the tires go bald or leave the engine idling in the mud for weeks? Of course not. You would treat that machine with a level of reverence, bordering on obsession, because you know its performance depends entirely on its maintenance. In 2026, we often make the mistake of separating the mind from the body, treating our physical selves as nothing more than a glorified taxi for our brains. But in the 6-month monk mode, we discard this delusion. Your body is the hardware. Your mind is the software. If the hardware is glitching, overheating, or running on a dying battery, the most sophisticated software in the world will crash. The biology of focus. To shock everyone with your output, you must first understand the biological tax of poor health. When you are sedentary, sleep-deprived, and fueled by processed sugars, your brain exists in a state of chronic low-level inflammation. This isn't just a physical feeling, it is a cognitive anchor. Inflammation in the body crosses the blood-brain barrier, leading to what we commonly call brain fog. It's that feeling of trying to think through a thick layer of cotton wool. You can have the best business plan in the world, but if your hardware is inflamed, you will lack the executive function to execute it. Physical fortification during monk mode is about hormonal optimization. We aren't training for a bodybuilding stage. We are training for cognitive endurance. When you engage in intense physical resistance training, you aren't just building muscle. You are triggering the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. Think of BDNF as Miracle-Gro for your brain. It supports the survival of existing neurons and encourages the growth of new ones. It is the biological foundation of the neuroplasticity we discussed in the introduction. By moving your body daily, you are literally making your brain more plastic and capable of learning the new skills required for your transformation. The circadian code, mastering the dark and light. In 2026, we are living in a circadian crisis. We blast our eyes with blue light at 11 p.m. and shield ourselves from the sun at 8 a.m. This wreaks havoc on our cortisol and melatonin cycles. During monk mode, you adopt the circadian code. This is a non-negotiable part of your hardware maintenance. Within 30 minutes of waking, you must get natural sunlight into your eyes. This triggers a timed release of cortisol that wakes you up and, more importantly, sets a timer for melatonin production 12 to 14 hours later. This simple act of light anchoring does more for your focus than 3 cups of coffee ever could. Then comes the digital sunset. 2 hours before bed, you kill the overhead lights and the screens. Your hardware needs to cool down. High-quality sleep is not a luxury. It is the cleanup crew of the brain. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system flushes out metabolic waste, the neural trash that builds up during a day of intense deep work. If you skip this, you start the next day with a dirty brain. Over 6 months, the difference between a person who prioritizes sleep hygiene and one who grinds on for hours of sleep is the difference between a genius and a burnout. Nutrition as information, not reward. We need to reframe your relationship with food. For most people, food is a reward, a comfort, or a distraction. In monk mode, food is information. Every time you eat, you are sending a chemical signal to your cells. Are you signaling storage and inflammation, or energy and repair? During these 6 months, you eliminate the spike and crash cycle. When you consume high glycemic carbohydrates and refined sugars, your blood glucose skyrockets, triggering a massive insulin response, which then leads to a crash. That crash is where procrastination lives. That's the moment you decide to just check YouTube for a second, because you don't have the metabolic energy to focus on your work. By adopting a diet of whole, single-ingredient foods, high-quality proteins, healthy fats, and complex fibrous vegetables, you provide your brain with a slow-burn fuel source. You are looking for metabolic flexibility, the ability for your body to switch between burning glucose and burning its own fat stores for energy. This creates a level of steady, unwavering alertness that allows you to hit those 4-hour deep work blocks without needing a snack or a hit of caffeine to keep you conscious. The psychology of physical suffering. There is a deeper, more philosophical reason for the daily physical, non-negotiable, voluntary suffering. The modern world is obsessed with comfort. We have climate-controlled rooms, cushioned seats, and food delivered to our doors with a swipe. But comfort is a slow poison for the will. When you stop doing difficult things with your body, your mind becomes soft. You lose the callus on your soul that allows you to handle the stress of a failing business or a difficult relationship. When you go for a run in the rain, or you finish a grueling set of deadlifts, you are practicing the art of the grind. You are teaching yourself that you can be uncomfortable and still function. You are building frustration tolerance. This is the secret weapon of the monk mode practitioner. When you sit down at your desk and the work gets hard, or you hit the month 3 wall we mentioned earlier, you don't quit. Why? Because you've already survived the squat rack this morning. You've already proven to yourself that your mind is the boss of your feelings, the body-mind feedback loop. You will begin to notice a feedback loop. As your body becomes leaner and stronger, your thoughts become sharper and more aggressive. There is an alpha neurochemistry that comes with physical health, a cocktail of testosterone, dopamine, and low systemic inflammation that makes you feel capable. In 2026, most people feel incapable. They feel overwhelmed by the world. They feel like victims of their circumstances. Much of this is simply a reflection of their physical state. When you are physically weak and metabolically broken, the world is overwhelming. But when you are a finely tuned vessel, the world looks like a series of challenges that you are equipped to handle. This 6-month period is your chance to build a body that serves your ambitions rather than sabotages them. You aren't doing this to look good at the beach, though that will happen. You are doing this because you have a mission that requires a high-performance engine. You are building a fortress of health that will protect you from the burnout and anxiety that claims so many others in this high-speed era. As we move toward the halfway point of your monk mode, your body should be a solved problem. You don't have to think about what to eat or when to move. It is part of the rhythm. You have automated your health so that 100% of your creative RAM can be dedicated to your craft. Key takeaway: your cognitive performance is a direct reflection of your physiological state. By mastering your sleep, nutrition, and movement, you provide your mind with the high-octane fuel and stable hardware it needs to achieve the impossible. Chapter 5. Deep Work and the Art of Mastery. We have cleared the void, established our laws, silenced the digital sirens, and optimized our physical hardware. Now, we enter the sanctuary. This is where the actual shock is manufactured. In 2026, the world is obsessed with hustle, but most people are just spinning their wheels in a state of frantic shallowness. They answer 100 emails, attend 6 meetings, and post 3 times on LinkedIn, yet their primary project hasn't moved an inch in a month. In monk mode, we trade busyness for depth. We embrace the philosophy of deep work, the ability to focus without distraction on a cognitively demanding task. This is the only skill that will remain hyper-valuable in the age of the shallow work trap. Most of our modern work lives are spent in the shallows. Shallow work is logistical style work, often performed while distracted. It's easy, it's low value, and it's replicable. The problem is that shallow work provides a false sense of accomplishment. You feel tired at the end of the day, so you assume you are productive. But if you look at the trajectory of your life, nothing has changed. Deep work, by contrast, is the superpower of the 21st century. It is the state where you are pushing your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Whether you are writing a screenplay, coding a complex algorithm, or designing a business strategy, 90% of the value is created in the deep state. The other 10% is just the administrative tax we pay to exist in society. During your 6-month monk mode, your deep work minimum is your primary metric of success. If you hit your 4 hours of depth, the day is a victory, regardless of what else happens. If you miss it, the day is a failure, no matter how many emails you answered. The mechanics of the flow state. To master deep work, you must understand the flow state, a term coined by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is the optimal experience where you lose track of time, your ego vanishes, and your performance skyrockets. There is a specific flow equation you must balance: challenge versus skill. If a task is too easy, you get bored and your mind wanders to your phone. If it's too hard, you get anxious and paralyzed. Deep work requires you to pick a task that is just slightly beyond your current ability, the sweet spot of frustration. In monk mode, we use the monastic scheduling approach. You don't try to fit in deep work between meetings. You build your entire day around the deep work. You have a startup ritual perhaps, a specific song, a cup of tea, and a cleared desk and a shutdown ritual. These rituals signal to your brain that the temple of focus is now open. You are training your neurons to fire in a specific pattern, making it easier to enter the flow every subsequent day. The myth of multitasking. We need to kill a dangerous myth. The idea that humans can multitask. The human brain cannot focus on two cognitively demanding tasks at once. What we call multitasking is actually context switching. And as we discussed briefly in Chapter 2, context switching comes with a massive attention residue tax. Imagine you are writing a deep, thoughtful essay. Your phone pings. You look at a text for 5 seconds. You put it down. Even though you are back at your screen, a ghost of that text message is still occupying a portion of your brain's RAM. Research shows it can take up to 20 minutes to fully regain your previous level of depth. If you check your phone every 15 minutes, you literally never reach your full cognitive potential. You are living your entire life at 60% of your brain's capacity. Monk mode is about living at 100%. When you are in your deep work block, your environment is a black hole for distractions. No internet, unless the task requires it. No phone in the room. No quick questions from family or roommates. You are a ghost in the machine. The compound interest of mastery. Why does 6 months of this matter? Because of the law of compound interest. In the first month of monk mode, your deep work might feel clunky. You'll be frustrated. Your focus muscle is weak. But by month 3, your ability to concentrate will be 10x what it was. By month 6, you will be able to produce in 4 hours what a normal person produces in 2 weeks. Think of a master in any field. A master pianist, a master carpenter, a master coder. What separates them from the amateur is not just talent. It is the density of their focus. They can go deeper, stay longer, and see nuances that the distracted mind misses. Mastery is the result of thousands of hours of deep work stacked on top of each other. In 2026, most people are information grazers. They know a little bit about a lot of things, but they are masters of nothing. By committing to 6 months of deep work, you are choosing to become a deep diver. You are building rare and valuable skills, and the world rewards. Rare and valuable, with rare and valuable returns, wealth, autonomy, and respect. The ritual of the deep work den. Your environment is an extension of your mind. If your desk is covered in clutter, your mind will be cluttered. If your digital desktop has 50 icons, your focus will be fragmented. Part of the art of mastery is the curation of your workspace. Create a deep work den. This is a space that is used only for your primary mission. When you enter this space, your brain knows exactly what time it is. It's not the place where you eat. It's not the place where you watch Netflix. And it's certainly not the place where you scroll on your phone. It is a sacred space for the creation of your future self. By the end of this chapter, you should realize that deep work is not just a technique, it is a way of being. It is the rejection of the frantic, shallow, and reactive lifestyle that defines 2026. It is a commitment to quality over quantity. It is the realization that your best work, the work that will shock everyone, cannot be rushed. It must be coaxed out of the silence, one focused hour at a time. As you move through the middle of your 6-month journey, you will start to fall in love with the work itself. You'll find that the reward isn't just the money or the success at the end. The reward is the feeling of your brain operating at its highest level. That is the true high of the monk. Key takeaway: real value is created in the depths, not the shallows. By protecting your deep work minimum with religious fervor, you build the rare skills and high output capacity that define a master. Chapter 6. Facing the Shadow, the Psychological Wall. You are approximately 90 days into your 6-month journey. The initial adrenaline has evaporated. The new year, new me energy that carried you through the first few weeks is gone, replaced by a cold, heavy realization. This is hard. Your friends have stopped asking if you're coming out. Your family thinks you've become obsessive. And most importantly, the silence you worked so hard to create in Chapter 1 is no longer peaceful, it is loud. This is the psychological wall. In the world of ultramarathons, they call it the bonk. In monk mode, we call it facing the shadow, the return of the suppressed. When you are living a normal, distracted life in 2026, you have 1,000 different ways to hide from yourself. If you feel a twinge of loneliness, you open Tinder. If you feel a pang of inadequacy, you scroll Instagram to find someone worse off than you. If you feel the existential dread of a purposeless career, you drown it in Netflix or a few drinks. You are essentially using digital and chemical noise to drown out the internal signal. But in monk mode, you have cut the wires to the noise-making machines. You are sitting in the void we discussed in Chapter 1. And when the noise stops, the signal becomes deafening. This signal is what the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung called the shadow. It is the collection of all the parts of yourself that you have rejected, denied, or tried to ignore. Your fears, your past failures, your secret shames, and your deepest insecurities. Around the 3-month mark, the shadow doesn't just knock, it breaks down the door. You will find yourself sitting at your desk, ready for a deep work session. And suddenly, you are overwhelmed by a memory of a mistake you made 5 years ago. Or you are hit by a wave of profound sadness that you can't quite explain. Most people quit monk mode here. They think, this isn't working. I feel worse than I did before. But they are wrong. This is the moment it starts working. The alchemy of boredom and pain. There is a biological reason for this wall. Your brain is a homeostatic organ. It wants to return to the way things were. It is fighting to get its high dopamine hits back. It is trying to trick you into quitting by making the present moment feel unbearable. This is the boredom crisis. In 2026, we view boredom as a defect, but in the shadow phase, boredom is actually a diagnostic tool. If you are bored, it means you are still looking for external stimulation to feel okay. The shadow is forcing you to find that okayness internally. Think of this phase as psychological alchemy. In alchemy, the first stage is nigredo, the blackening. It involves the breakdown and decomposition of the base material. You are the base material. The wall is the heat that is breaking down your old, weak identity so that a stronger one can be forged. You cannot become the person who shocks everyone without first killing the person who was easily distracted. The practice of radical presence. How do you climb the wall? You don't climb it by thinking your way over it. You climb it through radical presence. When the shadow rises, when the anxiety, the boredom, or the sadness hits, most people try to fix it. They try to journal it away or positive think it into submission. In monk mode, we do the opposite. We sit with it. We observe the feeling in the body without judgment. We realize that an emotion is just a physiological sensation, a tightness in the chest, a heat in the face. By refusing to run back to your old distractions, you are extinguishing the habit loop. You are teaching your nervous system that these emotions are not life-threatening. You are building emotional resilience. This is the monk in monk mode. A monk doesn't run from the storm. A monk becomes the mountain that the storm blows against. The identity crisis as a gateway. As you face the shadow, you will experience an identity crisis. You will start to ask, who am I if I'm not the funny guy at the bar? Who am I if I'm not the busy professional answering 200 emails? This is the most important question you will ever ask. Most of our identities are just collections of habits and social expectations. When you strip those away, you find the core self. This core self is the source of your true intuition and your deepest creativity. People who successfully navigate the 6-month monk mode often report a breakthrough around month 4 or 5. Suddenly, the work feels effortless. The cravings for social media vanish. The shadow is integrated. They no longer feel like they are trying to be disciplined. They simply are disciplined. They have moved from willpower to identity. The real meaning of shocking everyone. We started this journey with the goal of shocking everyone in 2026 without results. But by the time you reach the other side of the psychological wall, your motivation will have shifted. You will realize that the opinion of everyone is a very small thing compared to the peace of mind that comes from mastering your own internal world. The shock isn't just the new business, the new body, or the new bank account. The shock is the eyes. When people see you after 6 months of facing your shadow, they will notice a stillness in your eyes that wasn't there before. You have a level of groundedness that can only be earned in the void. You are no longer a reactor to the world. You are a creator in the world. The psychological wall is the filter of greatness. On one side of the wall are the millions of people who talk about their big plans while scrolling on their phones. On the other side are the few who are willing to sit in the dark, face their demons, and do the work anyway. As we move toward the final stages of the protocol, remember, The pain you are feeling is just the old you dying. Let it die. It wasn't serving you anyway. The new you is waiting just on the other side of the silence. Key takeaway: the middle of the journey is not a sign of failure, but a psychological crucible. By facing your internal shadows without distraction, you transform your willpower into an identity that cannot be broken. Chapter 7. The Social Sacrifice. We often speak of success as an act of addition, adding skills, adding money, adding status. But the 6-month monk mode teaches us that true transformation is an act of subtraction. And the most difficult, most emotionally taxing subtraction of all isn't the sugar, the social media, or the sleep, it's the people. To reach a destination you have never been to, you must be willing to travel through a season of profound social isolation. This is what we call the social sacrifice. It is a deliberate decision to become a ghost in your own social circle so that you can become a giant in your own life. The crabs in a bucket phenomenon. The moment you announce your monk Mador, more likely, the moment you simply stop responding to the Friday night, "What's the plan?" text you will trigger a psychological reaction in the people around you. You must understand that your self-improvement is a mirror. When you choose to be disciplined, you are inadvertently highlighting the lack of discipline in those around you. When you choose to be intentional with your time, you are inadvertently criticizing how they waste theirs. This leads to the crabs in a bucket syndrome. If you put a single crab in a bucket, it will easily climb out. But if you fill the bucket with crabs, the moment one starts to climb, the others will reach up and pull it back down. They aren't doing this out of malice. They are doing it out of a subconscious survival instinct. If you escape the mediocrity of the group, it proves that escape is possible, which means their stay in the bucket is a choice. To avoid that painful realization, they will try to save you. They will tell you that you're missing out, that you're taking it too far, or that one night off won't kill you. The social sacrifice requires you to be the unhingeable crab. You must be willing to be the weirdo. In 2026, being normal is a recipe for anxiety, debt, and distraction. If you want a life that is not normal, you must be willing to be socially abnormal for a season. The myth of balance in a growth phase. We are often told that balance is the key to a good life, but balance is a maintenance strategy, not a growth strategy. If you want to move a heavy boulder, you don't apply balanced pressure. You apply a massive, unbalanced, singular force in one direction until the inertia is broken. During these 6 months, your social life will be unbalanced. You will miss birthdays. You will miss weddings. You will miss the latest inside jokes and the viral trends. You must accept this. There is a social tax on greatness. You cannot be the life of the party on Saturday and a master of the craft on Monday morning. The cognitive energy it takes to perform socially, to navigate the ego play, the small talk, and the peer pressure's energy that is being stolen from your primary mission. By choosing the social sacrifice, you are protecting your decision capital. You only have so much willpower per day. If you spend it deciding how to politely decline a drink, or how to explain your lifestyle to a skeptical friend, you won't have it left for your deep work. You are cutting the social tether so the balloon can finally rise. The selection of the inner circle. Isolation doesn't necessarily mean being 100% alone, although for many, that is the most effective path. If you do maintain social contact, it must be surgically precise. In monk mode, we move from broad networking to deep connection. You must evaluate your relationships through the lens of energy exchange. Does this person fuel your mission, or do they leak your energy? There are battery people and drain people. During monk mode, you have zero tolerance for drain people. This includes the drama seekers, the chronic complainers, and the vague. The few people you do allow into your 6-month sanctuary should be those who understand the code of the monk. They don't need you to be on for them. They respect your deep work hours. They are the friends who say, "I'll see you in 6 months on the other side," and truly mean it. This is the period where you find out who your real allies are. You will lose friends during this process, and that is okay. You are outgrowing your old skin, and the people who were attached to that old version of you will naturally fall away. The psychology of being misunderstood. One of the greatest fears of the human animal is being misunderstood or cast out from the tribe. Our ancestors knew that being cast out meant certain death. This is why the social sacrifice feels so visceral. It feels like a threat to our survival. But in 2026, the tribe is often a digital hallucination. We are sacrificing our actual potential for the likes and approval of people we don't even like. Monk mode is a training ground for reputational resilience. It teaches you to be okay with being the villain in someone else's story. If someone thinks you're arrogant because you didn't answer their DM, let them. If someone thinks you're boring because you're in bed by 9 p.m., let them. When you stop living for the audience, you finally start living for the player. You realize that the only social validation that matters is the one that comes from the person in the mirror. When you have total self-respect, you no longer crave social approval. This makes you incredibly dangerous and incredibly charismatic. Ironically, by being willing to lose everyone, you become the kind of person everyone wants to be around. Re-entry, the new social paradigm. As you approach the end of your 180 days, you aren't just going back to your old social life. You are entering a new one. You have recalibrated your social value. You have become a person of higher density. When you finally emerge from the cocoon, you will find that the low-value social invitations no longer interest you. You have lost a taste for shallow gossip and cheap thrills. You will start to attract a new tribe, people who are also operating at a high level, people who respect boundaries, and people who are focused on creation rather than consumption. The social sacrifice is not a permanent goodbye to the world. It is a pause that allows you to return to the world as a leader rather than a follower. You are taking the 6 months to build a value base so that when you do socialize, you are bringing something meaningful to the table. You are no longer taking energy from the room. You are providing it. Key takeaway: you cannot become who you want to be while remaining attached to who you used to be. By embracing the social sacrifice, you protect your focus and find the courage to be misunderstood on your way to mastery. Chapter 8: Re-entry and the New Normal. The calendar marks day 180. You have reached the end of the controlled environment of your monk mode. In the movies, this is the part where the music swells, the hero walks out into a cheering crowd, and everything is fixed forever. But in reality, the end of monk mode is a delicate and dangerous transition. This is the re-entry phase. Just as a spacecraft risks burning up upon re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, the monk risks losing everything they have gained if they simply go back to normal. Because the goal was never to do a 6-month stint and then return to your old life. The goal was to use those 6 months to build a new normal that makes your old life unrecognizable. The danger of the post-protocol crash. There is a psychological phenomenon called goal attainment fatigue. When we spend a long time pushing toward a specific date, our brains treat that date as a finish line where we can finally stop. If you view day 181 as the day you get to go back to your old habits as a reward, you have missed the point of the entire journey. If you immediately plunge back into heavy social media usage, poor nutrition, and shallow work, your brain will experience a dopamine flood that can lead to a massive crash. You will feel a sense of post-monk depression because you have traded your hard-earned internal peace for external noise. Re-entry must be systematic. You don't open the gates. You lower the drawbridge slowly. You introduce new elements, socializing, entertainment, travel one at a time, and you observe how they affect your baseline focus and calm. If an old habit makes you feel like the old you, you discard it immediately. You are now the gatekeeper of your own life. Systematizing the discipline. The greatest gift of monk mode is that it has turned willpower into systems. During the last 6 months, you didn't just work hard, you built a framework for how you live. To make this sustainable, you must move from the sprint of monk mode to the marathon of a high-performance lifestyle. In the 6-month protocol, the rules were rigid. In the new normal, the rules become systems. You might not do 4 hours of deep work every single day, forever, but you maintain a system where your mornings are protected space. You might not be 100% sober forever, but you have a protocol for when and how you consume substances so they don't interfere with your hardware. Think of it like an athlete. They have in-season monk mode and off-season sustainability. Even in the off-season, an elite athlete doesn't sit on the couch and eat junk food for 3 months. They maintain a maintenance baseline. Your goal for the rest of 2026 is to define your maintenance baseline, the minimum requirements of sleep, movement, and focus that keep you from slipping back into the digital fog. The hybrid lifestyle. The new you is a hybrid of the monk and the manager. The monk is the one who goes deep, seeks silence, and creates value. The manager is the one who navigates the world, manages relationships, and handles the logistics of a successful life. In 2026, the most successful people will be those who can toggle between these states. They have periods of intense monk-like focus, mini monk modes of 2 weeks or 1 month, followed by periods of high-level social and professional engagement. You have learned how to go off-grid at will. This is a superpower. When the world gets too noisy, you now know exactly how to pull the plug and find your center again. You are no longer a victim of the attention economy because you know how to survive without it. The paradox of results. Why others are shocked. The title of this journey promised that you would shock everyone. And you will. But the shock doesn't come from a single moment of reveal. It comes from the consistency gap. While everyone else was chasing trends, you were chasing depth. While everyone else was reacting to headlines, you were building systems. When you reemerge, people will see the lagging results of your 6 months of work. They will see the business that is suddenly profitable, the body that is suddenly athletic, the mind that is suddenly articulate and calm. They will call it luck or overnight success. Only you will know about the void, the shadow, and the social sacrifice. Only you will know about the mornings you spent staring at a blank screen, fighting the urge to check your phone. The shock is simply the world finally catching up to the work you did in the dark, living as a high-density human. As you move forward, you will realize that you have become a high-density human being. Most people are low density. They are easily moved by the wind, easily distracted, and easily influenced. You are heavy. You have a center of gravity. This density comes from the 180 days you spent consolidating your power. You have integrated your shadow. You have mastered your hardware, and you have reclaimed your attention. You are now the signal in a world of noise. The new normal is a life of quiet confidence. You don't need to post about your wins because you know what they cost. You don't need to argue with people who don't understand your path because you no longer seek their approval. You have completed the 6-month monk mode. But in truth, the monk never leaves you. The monk is the part of you that knows that at any moment, you can step out of the chaos and return to the silence. And in that silence, you are invincible. As we conclude this chapter-by-chapter breakdown, look back at the person you were 180 days ago. They feel like a stranger, don't they? That is the sound of a successful metamorphosis. You didn't just change your habits. You changed your species of human. Now, go out into the world of 2026 not as a participant in the madness, but as a master of your own destiny. Key takeaway: success is not a destination, but a state of being. By transitioning your monk mode rules into a sustainable lifestyle system, you ensure that your transformation is not a temporary peak, but a permanent new plateau. Conclusion: the architect of the new self. We have traveled from the chaotic noise of the modern world into the silent, pressurized lab of the 6-month monk mode. If there is one thing I hope you carry with you from this journey, it is the realization that your life is not a series of accidents. It is a construction project. Most people spend their lives living in a house they didn't design, filled with furniture they didn't choose, wondering why they feel so uncomfortable. Monk mode is the period where you tear that house down to the studs and rebuild it on a foundation of absolute intention. The deeper message of this book isn't about productivity or getting ahead. It is about reclaiming the human spirit from the machinery of the attention economy. In 2026, the greatest act of rebellion is to be a person who cannot be distracted, to be a person who can sit alone in a room and be at peace, to be a person who does exactly what they said they would do, 6 months after they said they would do it. The cultural impact of this philosophy is profound. We are moving toward a great divergence. On one side, there will be the distracted class, the people who are perpetually reactive, economically vulnerable, and emotionally fragile because they have no command over their own minds. On the other side, there will be the focused class, The monks, the architects, the creators, these are the people who will lead, who will innovate, and who will find true fulfillment. By completing this protocol, you have chosen your side. The 5 principles of the integrated monk as you move back into the flow of life. Keep these 5 practical principles as your North Star. Protect the morning. Control the evening. Your day is won or lost in the first and last 90 minutes. Keep your phone out of the bedroom and you'll focus on the deep. Friction is your friend. If a habit is hurting you, make it impossible to do. If a habit is helping you, make it impossible to avoid. Design your environment so you don't have to rely on willpower. The body is the hardware. Never let your physical state become the bottleneck for your mental potential. Move, sleep, and fuel as if your career depends on it. Because it does. Density over surface area. It is better to do one thing at a master level than 10 things at a mediocre level. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. The silence is always there, even in the busiest city or the loudest office. You can return to the monk inside. Your calm is your power. This 6-month journey was never meant to be a punishment. It was a gift you gave to your future self. You have proven that you are not a victim of your biology or your technology. You have proven that you are the master of your own attention. So, as you step out of this intellectual journey and back into the world, I leave you with one final question. Now that you know exactly what you are capable of, when you stop hiding from yourself, what are you going to build next? The world is waiting for the shock, but remember the shock was never for them. It was always for you.